Hey everyone, and welcome to the Hazy Sports Podcast. We're back after a little bit of a hibernation through the winter break, but great to be back. We've got tons to talk about today, and Charlie, great to see you again.
Good to see you too, buddy. It's been a long time. I think our last one, we were just heading into the World Series.
Yeah, I think we were live during the Mariners series, so maybe it's good that we took a little hiatus when we did, so we didn't have to relive the painful ending of the Dodgers series.
Painful endings seem to be running through my sports fandom here. Two cup losses, a tough Jays loss, and then, of course, yesterday, the Bills' devastating over overtime loss.
Why don't we jump right into that? Because obviously that's top news today. Here we are, Sunday morning. I will say, from a neutral fan perspective, that's one of the most entertaining games I've watched in a while. But as a Bills fan, that's got to be one of the more crushing losses in recent memory, anyways.
Yeah, I'm not sure it makes top three on the crushing defeats, but God damn it. Like to play as poorly as they did in the first half and then to claw your way back and just I don't know, 2026 and I still don't know what the fuck the catch is.
Yeah, that was a tough call at the end. It was a great game though, like some great defensive plays, some great offensive plays from both Allen and I was actually pretty impressed with Bo Nix and like some of the drives he led. Sean Payton calling kind of a masterful game. It kind of felt like Payton versus Allen almost out there.
Yeah, I agree. Nix was balling out. Like I'm not gonna lie, I didn't watch a lot of Denver games this year, but I figured we had the heavy advantage at the quarterback position and he was going toe to toe with Allen. But that play right before halftime, like what is going on?
Yeah, I didn't understand that. Like he usually, he plays aggressively, but that seemed a little careless. Like something you don't really see out of him a lot.
Careless, and you're getting the ball to start the second. Just take the knee, go down one score.
I do think Buffalo's the better team, and I would much rather watch the Bills continue on and see Josh Allen doing his thing than see the Broncos go on. But crushing ending to that, just with like a very questionable interception call there. And then two kind of on the fence pass interference calls to basically seal the game.
And the worst part about this now is Bo Nix is out for the rest of the playoffs. So if the Patriots win today against an already, injury depleted Houston team, they're going to get to face a backup quarterback. And everybody shits on the Bills defense, and rightfully so. But that second half, like they locked it down and got the stops they needed to get. It's too bad. And I don't know, like with Mahomes and Lamar not doing and Burrow being kind of shitty this year, that may have been the best chance to get to one. And it's going to be tough. I just feel for the Bills.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to get your opinion on, this is kind of a side thing, but I think it's funny. They bring in Gene Sarator now. Like it's what they used to bring him in as like novelty, like on a really big call. Now it's like any play that's even lately on the fence. They're like, "What do you see here, Gene?" They're kind of like constantly bringing him on. Like I thought he's almost on there as much as Romo and Nance, like bringing him.
Yeah, he gets a lot of airtime. The other thing that bothered me last night with Romo was every fucking play he's like, watch Kincaid here. He just kept saying that and they never went to Kincaid.
I forget when in the game it was, but Dalton Knox was took a little like dump off pass kind of coming across the field. He got lit up. Like one of those hits where you're sitting on your couch watching it and you literally jump back.
And he just dropped him. And Knox is a big dude. Like to completely take him off his feet.
Like a normal human is not getting out of bed for a week after a hit like that.
And even when they showed the slow motion replays, neck like snapped back pretty violently in slow motion. But You got two options on those, right? You can either lay there or you got to hop right up and do the first down.
Yeah, pretend like you didn't feel a thing.
Meanwhile, he's probably crying, internally bleeding.
The other unusual play is Mims, I think it was, caught a touchdown pass late in the game and went flying into the camera. And after he hit the camera, he's writhing on the ground. Looks like he wasn't going to get up. I thought it was funny that the broadcasters didn't even acknowledge that. They keep showing it and talking about it. I'm like, why is nobody mentioning the fact that this guy like just about got paralyzed with a camera puncture to the back?
Yeah, when it first happened, I couldn't figure out what he hit, and then when they did that slow motion, and you can see the handle like stab him right in the lower back. But yeah, they didn't seem to care. It was all about the getting the 2 feet down.
Yeah, but like I said, I was, kind of jumping on the Bills bandwagon just because so many of my buddies are Bills fans. I kind of wanted to see them get the job done. But just from a neutral perspective, the back and forth, the turnovers, the game coming down to the wire like that at the end, and then going into overtime, and from an entertainment and a drama perspective, it had pretty much everything you would want from a playoff game, but just not the greatest outcome as a Bills fan.
Definitely not, but the playoffs have been awesome. Like the Rams Panthers game was awesome. Last night's game was great. I was excited to see the Niners put out the Eagles. Last night's game, the late game wasn't great. That was total domination. But overall, it's probably been one of the better playoff seasons.
Yeah, it's funny because I went to Montreal last weekend, which I'll talk about a little bit. But the cool part was I took the train there, and then on the train ride home, it lined up perfect where I had DAZN going on my laptop. Basically, when we left, pretty much right when we left Montreal, the Bills game was starting, and it like ended right when we got to Toronto at Union Station, where we had to get on a different train. So I got to enjoy that, like basically dialed right in, laptop in front
That's
of me.
sweet.
That was like an awesome game. I don't think anybody else around me was paying attention to the game, but I'm doing these little fist pumps and holding back yells. It would have been great to just see him get the job done.
Yeah, and new stadium next year. If they don't go out and get this guy some legit wide receiver help, then I don't know what they're watching because that's all the guy needs is a threat.
And you got to think the clock's ticking, right? Like a guy that plays the way he does, he's a physical specimen, an absolute freak and from an athletic and size and speed standpoint. But the hits he's taken on a regular basis, it's got to be like a closing window where he'll probably be great for a while, but there's only probably 2-3 more years left in his career where he can make the plays that he's making now from a running perspective.
Absolutely.
So, well, we'll see. Yeah, we've got a couple games coming up tonight with, basically right after this, we'll be getting into Houston, New England. And then, what's the night game? What am I forgetting here?
Bears Rams
Bears, Rams. Oh, yeah, that'll be a good one.
should
Yeah.
be a great one.
Yeah.
I've decided I'm cheering for the Bears for the rest of the way now.
Yeah. I have a tough one with that. I'm torn in many different directions. It's hard to cheer for our former OC Ben Johnson there with the Bears. I'm also hard to cheer for our former quarterback with Stafford. So I guess I got to pick a side. I actually wouldn't mind seeing Drake May and the Patriots get it
Oh,
done, but they've had enough success. But let's switch gears to baseball here because as you mentioned at the start of the episode, we kind of where we left off was like kind of in the middle of that dream run for the Blue Jays. They didn't quite get it done, but they basically gave us all probably the most exciting sports moments from a Canadian perspective of 2025. So yeah, things were looking good heading into the off season in terms of that nucleus, but yeah, not panning out, I guess, the way we want. You're more of a Jays fan than me. Tell me what you're thinking, thoughts
yeah.
are on
So,
the off season so far.
well, as a whole, I think that the off season's been fantastic for the Jays. Like this is probably the most exciting off season as a Jays fan I've ever had. But yeah, losing Bo Bichette to the Mets, it's a big blow, but you can't pay that guy $42 million a year. Like Great player, don't get me wrong, but there was no way the Jays were coming close to that number. I wish the guy luck, and the last memory we have of the Jays is him hitting that home run in Game 7, and I thought it was going to get us over the hump, but we know how that turned out.
Yeah. Sometimes I guess these things work out for the best where you might have had to overpay to keep a guy that might be past. I don't know if you would you consider him past his prime or is just more of a bit of a liability on the defensive side.
I mean, they have better defenders already. It's going to be hard to make up the 190 hits that he pretty much is a lock for every year. But, you can't blame the guy. 42 million bucks to go to a pretty decent Mets team. And, I wish the guy well, no hard feelings at all.
Tell me more about this Japanese player they signed because I don't know too much about him, but there was a lot of teams competing for his services.
So this guy's like a super utility player. He can play multiple positions. He's got some power. He's not going to be a Bo Bichette replacement, but he's going to be able to move around in that lineup, which the Jays, that was kind of their MO last year, where everybody can play multiple positions. Everybody can put the ball in play. And for 15 million bucks a year, it's worth taking a flyer on the guy. So I'm excited.
Yeah, so you're feeling like the Jays are right there for when next season starts to make another run at it.
I think they're still the best team in the American League. I think the offense may go down a little bit, but they're just as good defensively. Pitching's, I would say, is improved, and there's no reason you can't make another run. And you get to a trade deadline, maybe you bring in another big bat. So it's exciting.
Yeah, and here we've in the middle of winter. It's kind of nice thinking about discussing baseball and thinking about that while we've been socked in with snow for the past few weeks here. But maybe we should transition here, switch gears to hockey, which we've got a lot to talk about today. Like just before we left off, we kind of did a bunch of our season predictions. We're going to do a little bit of a mid-season check-in, just sort of see what things we got right and what things we were a little bit more off on. Some things are still to be determined, but yeah, I mentioned I went to Montreal last weekend, so that was a great trip. It was my first time seeing a game at the Bell Center. My cousin Jesse and I have been going to a Wings game each year, and we've been going to usually doing that at Little Caesars in Detroit. And so this year we decided to like switch it up, do a bit of a road trip, and see them in enemy territory. So I couldn't have been more impressed with the atmosphere, the fans, just the setup of that arena. Montreal as a whole was just a blast to hang out for the weekend. So it was a great experience. The Wings came away with a 4-0 shutout win, and what a trip.
So when you're in there, is it as lot like obviously they didn't score any goals, so that maybe took a little bit of the buzz out of the place, but like pregame and stuff, was it?
Yeah, it's buzzing in there. Like it is, you can just feel the energy and like even pregame warm-ups, they get the chants going. It feels like almost like the way the stands are set up, they're very vertical versus like kind of that stadium seating that takes you back. So even though we were up a little bit higher, it almost felt like you're in a press box looking down on the ice. It almost gave it that sort of gladiator style, Coliseum type of feel to it. But you could even feel it like when especially like they love themselves some Demidov. I tell you, like every time he touched the puck, you just like, even if it's just like 3 strides in a cross ice pass, like as soon as the puck touches his stick, you just feel the crowd just the energy just like bubbling up. As much as I wanted the Red Wings to get the win, part of me almost was like, once they had the game under control, I'm like, I wouldn't actually mind seeing a Montreal goal just to hear the crowd erupt because, yeah, the Red Wings did a good job of keeping the crowd quiet, but you could tell just from like when they would get a good scoring chance, when the opening, when the warm ups and the player introductions were going on, yeah, it was just a great vibe and just a classy group of fans, right? We're wearing our Red Wings gear. You're getting some good jabs thrown out at you as you're walking through the concourse getting a beer, but it's all pretty good natured. And even at the end of the game, the Habs fan that I was sitting beside reached over and shook my hand and said, "Good game," as if I contributed much to the experience. But no, it was good. Just a great vibe in the city. It was Saturday night. Yeah, we had an Airbnb right downtown, so went out for dinner before. Then you just like walk to the arena. Just it's cool. And what struck me, even though I know like most of the history of the Canadiens is in the Montreal Forum, like you walk in there and you see all the banners of the cups. You see Rocket Richard's number hanging there, all Guy Lafleur, Patrick Waugh, all the legends, and you see how many jerseys they have hanging up there, and it kind of hits you like, it's kind of like the mecca of hockey, but kind of just being there for the first time and, seeing the passion of the fans, seeing those banners hanging up there, you do kind of feel the history and legacy of that city from a hockey perspective.
Yeah, they must have the most retired jerseys in all of sports, right? Like maybe the Celtics are there with them, but
I was pretty surprised. Like there was like I think
running out of numbers.
like the Red Wings, they've just celebrated I know they don't have as storied a past as storied history as the Canadiens. Fedorov, I think, was only his jersey just got retired. I think he was like the eighth or ninth Red Wing. There must have been well over 20 to 25 guys there, but you think of like the dynasty that they had in the 70s, there's probably like three-quarters of that team, like Ken Dryden,
Yeah,
Shutt,
true.
Savard, all these guys. Yeah, so it was cool. It was definitely worth it. It's a bit of a long train ride. Taking the train's fun to Montreal, just in the sense you can like get a few drinks going on the way. You got the DAZN on the laptop, watching football on the way back. We brought usually it's just Jesse and I are going when we go to Detroit, but when we decided to go to Montreal, all of a sudden the wives perked up and said, "Oh, yeah, we might be interested in that trip too." So we brought the ladies along. They didn't come to the game. They kind of did their own thing while we were at the game, and then we met up with them for some drinks after.
It's always better too when I can take a good chirping from opposing fans, but it's when it gets, belligerent and stuff. Like I'll never forget my first NFL game. It was Bills versus Jets, and a couple of guys in Jets gear walked by, and it's just F-bombs and death threats.
NFL is a bit of a different breed there. I did get the feeling like in Montreal, like if I was to start getting a little cocky with the 3-0 lead after, I might have
Yeah.
not had as warm a welcome. But I think because we were being respectful, you're kind of doing like some fun banter back and forth. I thought they were quite classy and didn't have any times where it's not like we felt like we had to like go to the washroom together just in case we were going to get jumped or something like that. No, it was a great scene, great vibes. So yeah, I everybody said it to me there before I went. Oh, you're gonna love it, and so I'll be saying that to other people as they get a chance to go. But yeah, there is kind of nothing like Saturday night hockey in Montreal. But with that said, Charlie, I think we should get into the nitty gritty of the season here. We're using this episode to kind of shake the rust off a little bit. We're not doing all of our usual segments. We do want to get the trivia going back again here.
Yeah.
So I think you're first up for that. I don't know if any of us have ever answered any of the trivia questions.
Well, I
Right.
got one right, but then we found out that we had the wrong answer.
Right. Yeah. That was the again Evgeny Malkin one, I think.
Yes, I don't know how we messed that up, but anyways, okay. So this week we're heading into the goalie realm. Okay, so there's four goalies in NHL history with 45 points or more, which I found to be pretty amazing. But can you name the NHL leader of goalie points? I'll give you two hints because this kind of is a pretty wide spectrum.
Okay.
Okay, so for hint number one, this goalie's career was from 1983 to 2003. And
Wow.
the second hint is this goalie never scored a goal.
Should I save this to the end?
We'll give you and the listeners a bit of time to mull it over if they will.
Yeah, that's a great question. Let me think about that. We'll look forward to coming back to that at the end of the episode here.
All right.
Okay, Charlie, let's get down to brass tacks here though. We gotta evaluate ourselves here. What did we do well? Where did we miss the mark?
So for me, one of my predictions for the season was Yuri Slavkovsky was going to have a breakout year. And that's one of the things that I have nailed. He's 11 points off his career high right now with, I believe, 31 games to go. So he's going to blow past his career high in points. He's also playing on the defensive end pretty well. He's a +6 already. And even more impressive, he's shooting at over 20%. So he's taking high quality shots. I believe he's slotted in on power play 1 now for the Canadiens too. So I'm gonna give myself a pat on the back on the Slavkovsky call.
Nice job. Yeah, well, I think I'll give myself a little pat on the back for Trevor Zegras because that was kind of one of the guys I highlighted in terms of who I was buying and predicting a bit of a bounce back season for him. He's leading the Flyers in points, just showing like those flashes that we all saw from his early years with Anaheim, playing as a leader, thriving under that Tocchet leadership. And yeah, leading the charge there in Philadelphia.
Yeah, he's been great. The other night against when he got to play Anaheim and he did the hang up the phone
That was
celebration.
awesome. Yeah, that's one of the best sellies of the year. Yeah.
All right, so not to get too high on myself, I'm going to bring myself back down to earth with my Matias Maccelli call for the Leafs. I predicted he would be a 60-point guy. He is absolutely nowhere close to that. In my defense, I was expecting him to slot in on that power play role at like a Marner type. He's not getting the opportunities. He has been a little hotter lately, but he's not the fit I was expecting to fit in with that Leaf team. So I missed the net on that one.
Yeah, that's a tough one, but I could see how it was potentially going to work out there. I got to bring my ego down a notch here too. Sticking with the same team, I was kind of like all in with Tocchet and these Flyers, but I had a bold prediction that Michkov for the Flyers was going to have a 100-point season. I believe he was a healthy scratch, a week into the Tocchet experiment, so that hasn't been great. He's only getting about, I think, 13, 14 minutes worth of ice time. He's just not thriving. He's not totally shitting the bed, but he's well under a point a game and definitely nowhere near the 100-point season that I had predicted. But I thought he had a good run when Torts got fired last year. And then he kind of went off offensively. So I was kind of predicting that momentum would continue. Still a young guy, tons of talent, lots of time for him to be a great player. But I don't think it's going to happen this year. So I was a little too bullish on Michkov.
I think they said he hasn't scored a goal other than an empty netter since mid-November.
Yeah, it's been a tough look. He's making me look bad. If I could talk Russian, I'd send him a message to express my disappointment to him. But I still think he will be a great player at some point, but just has to probably learn a little bit more of the NHL game and how to play within a system.
All right, another one where I hit the mark. I predicted the Buffalo Sabres were going to be a team to watch. This started like an absolute dumpster fire, but they got a point last night, and I believe they've won like 14 of their last 17 games, and they're entrenched in an Eastern Conference playoff spot right now. I love it because this team is pretty loaded. And as a aside to this good call by me, we also said that they won that JJ Peterka trade, getting Josh Doan and Kesselring. And Josh Doan has been a machine. He leads the NHL in takeaways, and like he's sort of been a defensive force that they were missing the last few years. So I'm hoping they can hold on to this because I just think that city is just waiting for a good team to support. So Keep rolling, Sabres.
It's been a while since the Wings have made the playoffs, but I think even longer for the Sabres. They might have the longest drought in the NHL, I think. And you're going to a game there soon too, aren't you? So you're catching them on a bit of a hot streak here.
Yeah, it's funny. We bought the tickets at the time when the Sabres were pretty much dead last, and we're like, oh, this isn't going to be much of a game. But now they're closing in on Montreal, and that's who they're playing. So it should be a dandy. I get to see your boy Demidov too.
Nice. Yeah. Have you ever been to a game in Buffalo before?
It's funny. My son just asked me that when we got home today, and I said the last time I went to a Sabres game, it was Crosby's rookie year.
Wow. Yeah. So that is going back. What's that? 21 years?
Yeah, a bit of
I
a
think
gap
2006.
between
Yeah.
visits.
Yeah, I've never seen an NHL game there, but I saw a World Junior game there. Kind of a funny story. I don't know if I've told this one on the pod, but we thought we were buying tickets for the gold medal game, and then as the date got closer, we realized we accidentally bought tickets for the bronze medal game, and there was about 12 of us going down. My brother-in-law, my dad, and uncle, and a few friends. So we thought, oh, wasn't really what we had in mind, but let's just go anyways. And it turned out it was US versus the Czechia. And so we went down to Buffalo and we're watching this game. We're like, we'll make a good time of it anyways. Well, that game's finishing up. And then the gold medal game was coming on right after. And we were in a suite. That was like our big thing, is like, we're gonna just split a suite for this game and go all in.
High rollers.
My God, once you've watched a game in a suite, you got your own bathroom right there. You got like the food, servers coming, bringing you beers, bringing you food without leaving. Then you've got your almost like your own little 3 rows of seating that goes out into the arena. It's hard to go back to watching it the regular way. So we started looking around as like this. We kept having a few beers while after the game was over, and just kind of seeing things build up for the gold medal game. And where there's this suite right beside us where nobody was in. And so we get talking and to somebody that worked at the arena there and said, is this thing like sold? And it turned out it was available. So long story short, we're all about, 12 Stellas deep into things at this point, and it seemed like any price was a good price to like stick around for the gold medal game. So we literally all just pooled our money, bought the suite. There was enough of us that it wasn't like a crazy amount, but we ended up getting the suite right beside us for the gold medal game. So it was Canada versus Sweden. It was the year like Makar played for Canada. I kind of forget. I think Rasmus Dahlin was one of the big guns for Sweden. So anyways, we were having a great time there. And then I saw a friend of the podcast, Josh Ellis. He put a Facebook post up. He's there with his family, where the peasants are, sitting in the regular stands. And so I texted him. I said, hey, if you guys can get yourself to this door, I'll go in and let you guys in, because we had lots of space in there. So all of a sudden I got Josh and his family in there. We're all having a good time. Canada wins the gold medal. And then the box that was beside us was like a Team Canada box with, the scouting and admin team. But Marty Brodeur was there. And
Come on.
of course, Josh is, anybody outside of Mild May listening to this probably doesn't know who we're talking about. But Josh is a goalie that we grew up with, and like probably the biggest Marty Brodeur fan that I don't know a ton of like hardcore Marty Brodeur fans, but he's got to be pretty much at the top of the list. So he saw him, goes over, Marty gives him pictures. He's got pictures with his kids. Anyways, we end up out at this bar after, it's all Canadians in this Buffalo bar. Everybody's singing "Oh Canada." It was quite the experience. So anyways, that's my Buffalo story. I kind of got a little bit off track on that one, but just when you talked about the Buffalo game, it kind of reminded me of how our accidental bronze medal game turned into be one of the most fun days I've ever had.
I didn't know you were throwing around sweet money back then.
I was probably climbing out of that hole financially for a few months after, but at the time when you got a nice little buzz going and you see that suite sitting there and everybody's been drinking all day having a good time, it seemed like a great idea.
7 easy payments.
Yeah, all everybody kept saying is like, when are we going to see another junior game? It's sort of like, hey, let's just go all our chips in for this gold medal game, and then I never have to see another World Junior game again. I can check that box off.
I think we should, that should be the next classic game review, and we'll get Josh on to be on the show. I think that'd be good.
Yeah, that would be fun. It'd be interesting to hear his perspective of that because we've reminisced about that a couple times, but it'd be interesting to hear him tell that story from getting the text from me in the regular seats, and then like 5 minutes later he's in the suite balling it up with us. But anyways, yeah, sorry I got a little off track there, but bringing it around, yeah, you were bang on. I was listening back to that podcast, and you had come back to the Sabres a few times. It wasn't looking good early in the
It's
year.
horrible.
They fire their GM Kevin Adams, and then all of a sudden, I think they ripped off 13, 14 wins in a row, and now they're right in the hunt for a wild card spot.
It shows you too, like that team must love Lindy Ruff because that would normally be your first knee-jerk reaction, get him out of there, right? But the fact that he stayed means the team must like that guy.
And I think he's a icon in Buffalo because obviously he
Yeah.
he played there. He's coached there, I think, a couple times now. I don't think they wanted to make him the sort of the fall guy for all this. Although, yeah, now Kevin Adams, he's the one that made that Paterka trade that's kind of set them up. But
Yep.
sometimes heads just need to roll to get the attention of the boys and get people fired up playing the right way. So
Absolutely.
anyways, it's making your prediction look pretty damn good. The team, I'll say, I'll give myself a little bit of credit for is the Red Wings. I mean, I wasn't gonna suggest they're gonna have a shitty year as a Wings fan, but what they've done this year has exceeded my expectations. Even I thought for sure they were gonna be a playoff team, maybe be a little frisky in the first round, but that's about it. But seeing the way these guys have stepped up, like starting with Sider, you know, he's in that Norris conversation now with like, he's definitely not on the Makar level, but he's flirting with Zach Werenski territory, I'd say, just in terms of like the minutes he's playing, the deployments he's getting against the toughest competition out there. Just a shutdown guy, and he's like upping his offensive numbers. John Gibson was a little slow getting started, but he's been exactly what we needed. And then all those secondary guys like James Van Riemsdyk is having like
I was gonna say,
another act to his career. It's like crazy. And then, you know, DeBrincat's like on pace for one of his best careers. You got Simon Edvidson stepping up as like top tier defenseman, and that pair of Edmondson and Sider is like almost on par with any defensive pair in the league right now.
and the scary thing about them is they have the second most cap space available. So like if there's a big name out there and they want to make a push, they can add anybody. And
Yeah,
they have the assets too.
yeah, exactly. And even Grand Rapids. Grand Rapids is having like a record-setting year in the
Yeah, weren't
AHL
they
right
undefeated
now. Yeah,
for a while?
I forget their exact record. So obviously some of those are more like, journeyman vet guys, but a lot of them are made up of like Michael Branzig-Nygaard is there. He started on the Red Wings at the start of the year, got sent back down. Nate Danielson's another like first round pick that's playing there. So they got young prospects that are building a ton of confidence playing for like a wagon in the AHL that um when the Wings need to bring a guy up, they've got some pretty high quality prospects to plug in.
And one of the coolest stories, actually, when I opened my notes, that was going to be our last show before we took the little break, was Emmett Fitty. And this guy just slots in as, what was he, seventh round pick?
He
Sixth round.
he started on the first line, and did well there. He's just like pure hustle, dogged determination, like great to pair up with skilled guys because he's gonna like get in the corners, get the pucks out. He's like pure speed.
And when you can get one of these guys making league minimum to contribute anywhere, it's such a huge, add to the depth of the whole lineup. Like it's massive.
I think they need one or two more pieces, to really make them a cup contender. And for me, the biggest concern is like the grit and toughness. Like if they get into a street fight with a Tampa Bay or a Florida or something, I don't even know there's one guy on that team that I've seen drop the gloves. Like maybe Hamannik, or their your third or fourth pair D man. But I think they need a guy on there. Like obviously you're not going to get a Tom Wilson, but you need somebody in the
Something like that.
lineup that when playoff time comes around can like create a little, maybe not intimidation, but at least make them not a
Level the
put.
playing
I'm
field.
a little concerned when like playoff hockey comes around that the Wings could get pushed around a little bit because they don't have like a ton of size or toughness on the team. I'm worried that they're vulnerable to a little bullying around playoff time. So if they could get a guy or two that could kind of like give them a little more toughness in that department, I feel like anything could happen.
Yeah, no, I like where they're going. I got one last one where I was wrong, and that's the Tampa Bay Lightning. And I don't know why I continue to doubt anything John Cooper does, but I mean that team they lost yesterday, but they were on an 11 game win streak. They're right at the top of the East. He's turning guys like Darren Radish, I believe, is third in defense scoring. They pick up JJ Moser, and he's instantly a factor. Yeah, I'm not sure what I was thinking. I guess we were kind of always commenting about Kucherov and his body language and that shit, but Cooper just gets everybody dialed in, and I was way off on that one.
They're definitely the team I'm most worried about in the Eastern Conference. Like, obviously, if Florida, when they get Kachuk back and they get into playoff mode, they'll be a lot to handle. But the only other two teams I had that actually we were both off on were the Blues.
Yeah,
And we were like, how did the Bruins let go of Montgomery? And we were, we were very high on the Blues. I think we even said you were given the odds for them to make the playoffs. And I believe the term free money was thrown out there. And so that's the one where we were off. And then the other one was like the Rangers, thinking that,
yeah.
Sullivan was going to get them going. And I believe they've got two home wins this whole season. So they're struggling quite a bit. You know, I'm not going to be too hard on us. You got to give an opinion on all 32 teams. You're going to have a
I
few
think
a few
we
misses
had
there.
more hits than misses.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's tough too because even like we're at the mid-season point, but like I talk about the Red Wings now. I don't want to get too high on them because like they're basically tied for second place in the Eastern Conference, but the Eastern Conference is so close that they're only like a 3-game losing streak away from being on fighting for a wild card spot. So it's so
Even the
tight in the
Blues,
Eastern Conference.
I think the Blues are only 6 or 7 points out of eighth too. So I mean, but I think they're going to be selling everybody soon.
Yeah. So anyways, we'll continue to monitor things, but just kind of fun to do our little mid-season check-ins and we can't touch on.
Accountability, Jason.
That's right.
Accountability.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Let's switch to our weekly report card here, Charlie. Do you want to kick us off?
I do. All right, that's a good start. Okay, I got an A for the Buffalo Bills, and has nothing to do with football. But as you know, they're closing Highmark Stadium, or as I know it, Ralph Wilson Stadium. And I don't know if you saw this story, but they're teaming up with a sports collectibles auction company, and they're auctioning off things from the stadium. And one of the funniest things I've seen, I don't know if you've ever gone to a Bills game, but in the men's washroom, there's just these giant piss troughs. Like, and I'm not even exaggerating. It's probably a 20-foot trough where you just line up. Anyways, they're auctioning off the piss troughs from the stadium, and I just thought that was hilarious. So yeah, pretty funny. And if you talk to anyone who's been to a Bills game, one of the first things they mention is the piss troughs and Ralph Wilson. So a big A for the Buffalo Bills.
Ace. I've got an A plus for Patrick Kane. You know, it's been a great year for the Red Wings, retiring Sergei Fedorov's jersey, the centennial season with the nice jerseys. And now we get Patty Kane scoring his 500th goal. He's had an awesome third act here with the Red Wings. Had that hip surgery that ended most people's careers that had that procedure. So it's been great to see him on the wings, doing his thing, getting his 500th goal. I think, you know, most people would agree he's now the greatest American born player of all time. And, you know, to this day, there's not much I enjoy more watching in hockey than Showtime stick handling the puck. The way he zips it around is pretty awesome to watch. So congrats to Kane, a good career, and it's not over yet. Hopefully he can lead us to the promised land here eventually.
All right, I got a B plus for Austin Matthews. And this has nothing to do with his recent return to form, goal scoring wise, but his pregame interview when it was just constant Mitch Marner questions. And I don't know if you saw the clip, but he finally just said, "All right, I got to, that's enough of the Mitch questions." And he just shut the guy right down. I like that. Been taking so much flack about the, you know, the walk-in outfits and all this shit. And is this guy really a leader? And maybe he's not, but I just like the kind of enough of this bullshit. And he just shut it down. So a big B plus for Matthews.
I'm given an F for people FaceTiming in public. Now, this might be a bit of a generational thing because I don't think I've ever FaceTimed somebody in my life, but like we're going to Montreal on the train. There's this chick row in front of me, 45-minute FaceTime. Like they're hanging out, you know, having the whole social visit. I'm on the treadmill at the gym. I got somebody FaceTiming on the treadmill beside me, you know, like I need to hear this whole conversation. When Sarah and I are in Italy, you've got people like walking down these like touristy areas, FaceTiming with people. I just don't get it. Like having a phone call is one thing. It's usually like an exchange of information. Honey, can you pick up some milk on the way home? Yes, no problem. Okay, bye. But when people FaceTime, it's becomes this whole, it's like they're hanging out with the person and they're like doing it for 45 minutes just talking about shit that nobody else wants to hear. This conversation of yours, the lack of self-awareness or selfishness to sit on a train and have everybody within 3 rows of you have to hear what you and your friend, you know, think about everything in life at that moment. Just irritates me a bit. So F to FaceTiming in public.
All right, I got a D for another Connor McDavid gambling commercial. This one's actually a little bit funny with the bullet over, but it's not even the commercial that bugs me. It's the fact that DraftKings and FanDuel are advertising the responsible gaming tools. That's like, you know, that would be like Caesar's Palace advertising the pens in the lobby that you can use. Nobody gives a shit about responsible gaming tools.
It's almost made me enjoy gambling less. When there's so much advertising, you know, I kind of liked it when it was a little bit of a gray area in the law and you were working on these offshore accounts. Now you're like DraftKings is rammed down your throat every intermission, every podcast ad, and now it's like when they do the DraftKings ads, there's like the disclaimer part of it of all the numbers you should call if you have a problem, you know, and it's a different number for this state and a different number for that state. It goes on for like 45 seconds longer than the ad.
It's just so ridiculous. And if you don't know, I guarantee you're more concerned about the sign up bonus other than what the responsible gaming tools are.
I've still never clicked the no button when I've asked if I was fit to gamble. But
So
I will
yeah,
say that that was probably the least shitty Connor McDavid had. That was Terry Ryan in there with him,
yeah,
right? I think. Yeah, I was like, oh, it's actually like not completely lame. There was like a little bit of
it was
humor
kind
to
of
it.
funny, but I'm still giving it a D.
All right, I'm giving a C to hands-free washroom technology. I feel like we're here in 2026. We've got AI, you know, controlling everything. We've got all these innovations we're making. I feel like the hands-free washroom technology should be a little more sophisticated and polished. Like, I don't know about you, but like every time I go into like one of these washrooms at the train station or the airport, I'm doing this thing with my hands trying to kind of find the sweet spot of the sensor. The no water's coming out. I shift over to the faucet beside. Finally, I get a little water running out. Then it stops again. Then I get it. Then I try to do the soap. The soap thing always is like you think it's not working, and then you pull your hand away, and then the soap plops onto the counter. Because I just feel like hands-free washroom technology could be a little bit more sophisticated by now.
All right, I got a B for Stu Skinner. Gets the big trade out of Edmonton. I've always been a Stu Skinner defender, so I'm happy to see his last 5 games. He's 4-1 with only 6 goals allowed, and I would argue he's playing on, you know, at least the same as far as a defensive team goes in front of him. So I just hope for the guy, that he can turn things around. And I think he kind of got a bit of a raw deal there in Edmonton. I mean, he went to 2 finals. What else do you want from the guy? Well, B, I hope he can turn it around there and get things rolling.
Nice. And yeah, I think the Penguins in general are a little friskier this year than I was expecting. What can you say about Crosby? Like what he's still doing at his age, but they played the Wings played back to back against the Penguins a couple weeks ago, so I had a chance to get a good look at them, and they're a tough team to play against. I don't think I gave them enough credit, at the start of the season. Personal injury law firm still intact there with Rust Raquel Carlson, so they still have all lawyers on staff there. And one guy on the Penguins, that Brazo, man, he is a big fucking bugger. He's a unit, that guy. He's skating around. You don't want to get in his way. I don't know where he came from, but I knew of him. But sometimes until you sit and watch a full game with some of these guys, you get more of an appreciation for him. But he's a big man skating around out there. But all right, well, that was fun. We're gonna wind her down here, get into the outro, but we got a couple tributes to do, which
Yes.
we always try to touch on as kind of our obituary segment, our tribute segment. But we had we've talked a lot about goalies here this season, or this episode, sorry. Glenn Hall recently passed away. What were your thoughts on his career as you had a chance to kind of dig into that?
So, you know the name, but I didn't really realize how much of a factor this guy was. 502 consecutive games played in the no mask era, which is unreal, right? And then you can add on to that another 50 playoff games. It makes Cal Ripken look like a bit of a bitch when you figure there's slap shots coming at this guy's head. But 84 shutouts, 4th all time, 407 wins, 13th all time, a Hockey Hall of Famer, most All-Star appearances by a goalie with 13. He was considered the innovator of the butterfly style, which, I mean, that's everybody does that now. Calder winner, first team All-Star 7 times. Won the Stanley Cup as a player with the Blackhawks. Back up with your Red Wings in 52. And then a third cup with the Calgary Flames as the goalie coach. So quite a
Yeah.
career.
What a career. And a couple other things. He won, I don't know if you mentioned 3 Vezinas that he won. And I didn't realize it back then, but back then Vezinas were just automatically given to goalies that let in the fewest number of goals, or the goalie on the team that let in the least number of goals. But pretty good run. Yeah. And he won the Calder Trophy with Detroit before getting traded to St. Louis. And I'm not sure if he's like the first, but he's one of the few guys to win the Conn Smythe on a team that didn't actually win the cup. So he won the Conn Smythe with St. Louis when they lost to Montreal.
Yep.
But I think the thing that stood out to me, like you mentioned the butterfly style play, just watching his highlights, he looked like he was a generation ahead. Like when you see other goalies from that era, they almost have that, like what we used to call the road hockey style, where you just sort of like, everything's a big kick the pad out big glove save where, when you watched him, he just seemed like he was an era ahead of the rest of the goalies just in terms of the way he covered the net. And like, obviously the butterfly style is like basically what everybody does now. He was way ahead of his time. And it's one of those
And
names.
handling the puck. Like,
He he's one of those guys you hear the name, and because he was well before our time, kind of fun digging into it and realizing how good this guy was. He was so good at goalie that he actually was given one of the least creative nicknames I've ever heard, which is Mr. Goalie. And so not super creative, but it kind of made me think, what are some of the best and worst sports nicknames of all time? Any that jump out at you in terms of like good ones or bad ones?
so I looked up a whole bunch of these, and some of the ones that I forgot, like Oil Can Boyd is probably my favorite of all time. The guy's name was actually Dennis, but one of my favorites, and I actually forgot about this, was do you remember kicker for the Rams? Now his name is escaping me, but he was one of the first guys who had like unbelievable range, and they were playing off Megatron, and they were calling him Legatron because I forgot to write down his name, which is
Was it
disappointing.
Wilkins?
No,
Oh, maybe no.
I'll have to.
That's back in the day when 50 yarders were like kind of a
Right.
rare thing. Yeah. For me, the GOAT nickname is the great one, just to be able to like leave it at that. That's kind of a mic drop type of nickname. I was always a big Black Mamba fan. I thought I like that nickname. The other one I like is Anthony Davis, Street Clothes, just because he's injured so much. He's just
That's
like,
pretty
in
good.
fact, I think he's got a hand surgery right on cue here. From my perspective, one of the worst ones I always hated was Sid the Kid. I just thought,
Yeah.
it was shitty because it had a very short shelf life. Once he was 25, 26, it didn't make sense anymore. So there wasn't really any long-term thinking with that. Also, it's just lazy. It doesn't really have anything to do with his style of play. And
No.
then my other ones, I hate any ones that just integrate the number. Like, so I think the Great Eight sucks. You've already got the Great One. So the Great Eight
Plus,
isn't already, if you've got the Great One, the Great Eight, you need
plus
another word.
JJ McCarthy called himself nine, pretty much ruined it for everybody using a number as their my least favorite one, and I can't believe, and I'm gonna assume he hated it too. Do you remember running back Doug Martin for the Tampa Bay Bucks? He actually recently just died, which
Really, no,
rest in
it's not
peace,
ringing a
Doug.
bell.
Anyways, he came out of Boise State, and his nickname was the Muscle Hamster.
Yes, I actually now I'm more familiar with his nickname than his real name, but
Like nobody wants to be called that.
I mean it's funny. What what about Sweetness?
Yeah, I like that one.
That's kind
That
of
one's
that's
pretty
very
awesome.
singular. Yeah,
And the second you say it, you know who you're talking about, right? Like
yeah.
that's what makes him test the time. But yeah, Mr. Goalie, like you look at all the accomplishments Glenn Hall has, and that's the best they can do is Mr. Goalie.
Yeah, they kind of mailed it in on that one. But speaking of goalies, we should come back to that trivia question.
Oh yes.
Why don't you just refresh my memory here?
So the question was, who is the all-time NHL leader in goalie points? And this career was from 1983 to 2003, and he did not score a goal.
Yeah, so where I blurted out originally was Grant Fuhrer. The timeline seems to sync up. I think that would have been around when he came in. And I know he did play a long time, on a few different teams towards the end. And I feel like he probably would have got a lot of points just in those days of just dishing it off to a defenseman who passed it to Gretzky and Gretzky scored. So that's my best guess.
So that's a fantastic guess. It's an incorrect guess. He's actually second all time
Okay.
with the previous mentioned Martin Brodeur.
Yeah.
But Brodeur scored 2 goals. The guy in first place didn't score any goals. Do you want to take another stab at it?
Yeah, let's think. Who would have been a goalie in that era? Ron Hextall?
Multi-cup
Oh no,
winner.
because Hextall scored a couple goals.
Yeah, Hextall scored a goal.
Yeah, I might have to just get you to give me
Yeah.
the answer here.
All right. It's actually Tom Barrasso.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, he had a couple seasons with 5 assists and one season with 8 points, which if you look at today's scoring leaders, Scott Lawton, who the Toronto Maple Leafs traded a first round draft pick for, currently has 8 points. So he may pass Barrasso this year.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't actually Brasso crossed my mind from that era because I knew he won the Calder Trophy that that year in '83.
And the Benz.
I didn't realize he played 20 years though. That's
Yeah,
he had a longer run than I thought.
I didn't realize he played for the Leafs. He played for Carolina like really late in his career. But he had a season of 8 assists, and then he had a couple 5, and he has 48 career assists. So
Wow.
Tom Barrasso.
Pretty impressive. Yeah. That's a great question. Well, yeah, we this is kind of like our goalie episode here. We're going to wind things up here, Charlie, and kind of set up for the next episode. But just before we do that, another quick tribute. You know, I know you're a big Grateful Dead guy. We talked a lot about the Dead and Company, and you were kind of like filling me in on some tunes we should focus on or where I should start exploring the catalog. But we lost another member of the Grateful Dead recently. Do you want to speak on that?
Yeah, we lost Bob Weir, 78 years old. He died January 10th. One of the co-founders of the Grateful Dead at just age 17. I had a chance meeting with Jerry Garcia, and they started talking about, putting something together. He's one of the songwriting powerhouses of the group. He helped write Truckin', Jackstraw, Sugar Magnolia. After the Grateful Dead, he kept rolling with a bunch of sort of Grateful Dead offshoots, mixing in his own tunes as well. And Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award, which kind of means nothing to those guys, but even bigger, had the Kennedy Center honor, which is like I don't know, it's lifetime contribution to American culture, which I think is a higher award than winning a Grammy. So yeah, had some solo material, and most recently with this Dead and Company, which if you want to watch something cool, just watch any of the stuff from the Sphere that they did. So yeah, another legend gone.
Well, what a legacy they've left, and it's cool that it's still continuing rolling on through John Mayer and company. Yeah. Well, thanks for that tribute. All right, that pretty much wraps up our episode. That was great getting back into things, shaking the rust off. Let's talk about next episode. We're going to be recording on Saturday. We'll hopefully have it out Sunday or Monday.
Yep.
But we're introducing a new segment called Wax Era Legend. Do you want to introduce that a little bit?
Yeah, so this is kind of the one day I started looking at scoring leaders and stuff from the 80s and 70s, and you start seeing these names as you go down the list, where you're like, man, how did this guy score this many points and I've never heard of him, or I've heard of him and maybe he doesn't get the credit that they deserve, or guys that aren't Hall of Famers but are right on the cusp of being great but kind of get forgotten in the mix of all the superstars. So we're going to be shining light on some of these guys that may have been forgotten, and just some of the amazing things that they did that nobody really talks about.
And so the wax era, that refers to like our hockey card collecting
Right.
history when we were kids, and like when the cards used to come in those wax paper sort of
Wax pack. Yeah.
packs. Yeah, no, that's great. And we've got Wendell Clark queued up for our first one. It's funny, like out of all the videos we've put out since we started this podcast, the two with the most highest views our two Wendell Clark ones, one from our preview or our revisiting of the 93 series, the Leafs Kings series, showing that clip of Clark. That one did well. And then you just put out one with him fighting John Kordick, and people seem to love themselves some Wendell Clark, and for good reason. The guy played, every aspect of the game with like complete heart and passion. And so yeah, we're looking forward to profiling him as our first guy, but it's going to be a regular segment moving forward, a chance for us to kind of like tap into some of the nostalgia from when we were kids in that era when we first got into hockey, and then going back even a little bit further into the 70s to pay tribute to some of the legends that paved the way. So that's going to be a fun segment, and we'll be looking forward to getting into that.
And some one-off, one season wonders too. There's some guys I've never even heard of that have put up 40 goals, and I want to dive into that and what happened.
Yeah, it's going to be fun kind of getting our hockey historian hats on because, yeah, as much as we want to cover the new stuff, there's a lot of podcasts out there that'll keep you up to date on every breaking story here. So we want to, we'll still obviously be talking about the current stuff and the things that are most interesting to us, but taking a bit of a deeper dive on some of the history and the nostalgia and those fun things from when we were growing up. So yeah, great catching up with you, Charlie. Great to get the momentum back going. So we'll look forward to catching up with you next week. Enjoy the games here tonight. We've got two great football games. We've got some great hockey, so we'll have lots to catch up next Saturday. And until then, you be good now.